Less than a minute. Get started.
Okay, let's go.
Please.
Past 3 or 4 years.
Picked up.
We can
What are
prioritize.
they doing? They're around.
All right, take care.
Thank you, sir.
They're all part of the community,
Thank you.
public service.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
3 of us are undertaking political contributions.
Today is Wednesday, March 26th. The time is 6:30 p.m., and I'm calling this meeting the Macomb Township Board of Trustees to order. We will now say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With Clerk Posey absent today, Deputy Clerk Cardamom will be performing the clerk duties. Ms. Cardamom, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Trustee Cusimano.
Here.
Trustee Lucido is not present. Trustee Oliver.
Here.
Trustee Papa.
Here.
Treasurer Drollet.
Here.
Clerk Posey is not present also. Supervisor Viviano.
Here. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Mr. Cardamom, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Yes, we do have one proposed add-on. It would be item 14A under Parks and Recreation, and it's a request to approve the installation of a French drain at Pitchford Park in the amount of $14,870.
Sure, I move the agenda as with the addition.
Is there a second?
Trustee Kuzma seconds the motion.
Is there any questions or discussion on the agenda? Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Kuzmano, to approve the agenda with the addition. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to approval of the bills.
Motion to approve?
Second. Is there any discussion or questions on the bill run? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the bill run. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This will take us to approval of the previous meeting's minutes from March 12th. Is there a motion?
Trustee Kuzmano makes the motion to approve the minutes.
Support. Any questions or discussion? Motion by Trustee Kuzmano, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the previous meeting's minutes. Members, please vote.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
No
I
problem.
was clicking, but it wasn't.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, this will take us to our first public comment of the evening. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishes to make a public comment regarding an agenda item may do so now. And I don't see anyone making a move to the microphone, so we are going to move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, move the consent agenda in its entirety.
Support.
Is there any questions or discussion on the consent items? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Oliver, to approve the consent agenda. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, this will take us to, where are we at here? Item number 9. We have a request to approve the replacement of the Senior Center HVAC unit number 2. This is for $20,330.
So move.
Support.
Mr. Johnson.
All right, good evening, Board. This is rooftop unit number 2 getting replaced. It's the south side of the senior center building. The DPW utilizes the RFP process to score the proposals, interview companies, and determine the best candidate for the work to be performed. There were 9 proposals received, 3 companies were interviewed. Allied Building Services was the recommendation from the review team to perform the work. They were the lowest cost vendor as well. On top of that, Sanergy, who is our HVAC service provider, has to perform the installation and programming of the controller, that helps utilize this rooftop unit. So all that combined is the number you listed, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
just may, this is not specific to this unit, but it's in general about rooftop units. I had a conversation with Chris within your department, and I was myself not surprised to find out how many different HVAC rooftop units we have in our township buildings. So it's not like each building has a unit.
Right.
Do you know off the top of your head roughly how many we have in general?
Well, there's 16 rooftop units on all the buildings in the township. There's also a myriad of air handling units and things of that nature. So overall, we have about 80-something units that make the air circulate in the buildings.
Okay, I guess that helps explain why it seems like one of these is always popping up a couple
Yes.
times a year, and it's
Yep.
not because we've got a unit per building, but we've got
Right, multiple.
many. Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Anyone else? Hearing no more questions. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Oliver, to approve the replacement of the Senior Center HVAC Unit Number 2, $20,330. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This will take us to a request to approve the award of the 2025 CCTV and cleaning project to Rogue Industrial Services, $344,250.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Mr. Johnson.
All right, again, the DPW utilized the RFP process to score proposals, interview companies, and determine the best candidate for the work to be performed. 7 proposals were received, 2 companies were interviewed. The scoring reflected that Rogue was a recommendation from the review team to perform the work. We've been working with Rogue since 2022 and been doing a fantastic job for us. And this project consists of roughly 25 miles of sanitary sewer main, with 90% of that in the 6-inch to 12-inch size. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Since this is the second lowest bid that came in, was there anything that stood out, in your scoring that, for this company that you can kind of share with us that, gave it to Rogue?
So basically, nothing in particular stood out. I know there was a past experience with Taplin, who was the other bidder. There was a previous history that there was a concern about that. In the interview, they addressed it and they corrected the issue that we had in the past, and then scores were updated to reflect that they corrected that issue that we had with video processing, because the video came out grainy and we couldn't watch it. But they were able to correct it. But everyone scored readjusted their scores, and this Rogue came out on top still. So recommending them, but both of them were capable to do the work.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the 2025 CCTV and cleaning project to Rogue Industrial, $344,250. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And the next item is a request to approve the award of the 1-year utility bill printing contract to Peregrine Services, $15,600.
So move.
Support.
Mr. Johnson?
All right, we again used the RFP process for this one. Peregrine, we had 11 proposals received this time. Because Peregrine is the existing company we've utilized, they've done a great job for us since 2022. We didn't feel there was a need for interviews because they were the lowest price and they were the highest score. The difference in this from the current contract is roughly a $3,000 increase from the current contract we're in. They are willing to hold their price good, so this RFP was a 1-year contract with an additional 3-year extension. All 4 years will be the exact same price throughout, so assume they do a really good job this coming year. I'll come back next year at the same time. It'll be the exact same price for the next 3 years. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chair, if I may just add a little history to that. A number of years ago, we went out to bid for, these are the water billing, mailing of the water bills. And when we went out to bid, this company came in substantially lower than the others. And there's a lot of concern that their bid was that much lower than the other bids we received, and that they were a company that was located in Louisiana, and there was some concern about the distance and so forth as well. But we ended up choosing them, and since then, it's been a good decision. They've done a great job getting the bills out. There hasn't been any hiccups. There hasn't been delays. So I'm glad to see they're still the lowest bidder, and I think that decision we made is, saved us a good amount of money over that time. So thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion by Treasurer Lett, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the award of a one-year utility billing printing contract to Peregrine Services, $15,600. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Moving on to a request to adjust the wages for the part-time and seasonal employees. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. The Parks and Rec Department is seeking approval to adjust wages for part-time and seasonal employees. This adjustment is necessary due to the state of Michigan's planned minimum wage increases over the next 3 years. To stay competitive and support employee recruitment and retention, the department proposes setting new wages for all part-time and seasonal employees. The current wage rates and proposed adjustments were in your package. And I think Sal's behind me. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, do we have an idea how much, or how the wage increases will impact the department's overall budget?
In case anyone else didn't hear, the $100,000 per year.
$100,000
I was
per
just
year.
repeating it because you weren't next to a
Okay.
microphone.
Has the department struggled with any hiring or retaining employees in the past?
Well, we went through this process, was it 2 years ago? And I think that helped us retain and recruit back then 2 years ago. So I think the past 2 years have been pretty good.
Okay.
I think what we learned, especially coming out of COVID, when a lot of the wage scales were tipping up, fast food restaurants were paying $17 an hour. So we upped our part-time seasonal wage scale then to be competitive. That did well, and we have to stay competitive now with the advancing minimum wage. So
Yeah, the minimum wages went up to $12.48. Next year, 1/1/26, $13.73. 1/1/27 up to $15 an hour.
okay, any other questions?
Not a question, just a statement. I will say that it's such a big jump. I mean, it's 12.5% for, this year, and then 9.5% for next year. So, about 21% for, but I get it. It's based on, the state and everything. So, but yeah, a little surprising.
No, I agree with you. I would hazard to guess that nobody on this board believes that the advanced minimum wage resolution that was passed was a good thing for the state. So, especially not good for us.
So, Chair, is it retroactive? I used to make $2.75 an hour in my first job.
You were overpaid. If there's no more questions, there's a motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to adjust the part-time and seasonal employees' wage scale. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This will take us to item 13. This is a request to hire a full-time firefighter. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you again. The Human Resource Department conducted internal recruitment for the full-time firefighter position, which became available following a voluntary resignation last month. We are requesting approval to hire Anthony Poma for this role. Firefighter Poma has served as a paid-on-call firefighter and part-time firefighter since July 1st of 2019. He holds all required certifications for the position and has expressed a strong commitment to becoming a full-time firefighter. His qualifications and dedication were affirmed during an interview with the fire chief, deputy fire chief, and myself. This transition is expected to be seamless. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Oliver, to approve the hire of firefighter Poma to a full-time position. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, well done.
Congratulations. Thank you. It belongs on the floor. It's fine.
Wait till we get to the next item, Frank.
Yeah.
You're our internal bullshit spreader. We don't have a fertilizer spreader.
All right, that's one of the fun things we get to do. All right, moving on to item 14. This is a request to approve the purchase of a new fertilizer spreader. Not so fun. $18,509. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. DeCaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members. Parks and Recreation Department is requesting permission to purchase a new fertilizer spreader. We'd like to purchase a Z-Spray mid 30 gallon. The list price is $25,529. We received a quote of $18,509 from Weingarts as part of the Omnia Cooperative. I've included the quote, the confirmation of process memo from the purchasing specialist, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeCaro. Approximately how long do we expect this equipment to last? I know the last one lasted a long time.
About 10 years.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Question.
Yes.
So will this be a one-person machine?
This will be a one-person machine. We're waiting to get a quote from Weingarts for the old machine for a trade-in, so that this price might even go down. If we don't like that quote, purchasing specialist will just put it up on Mitten.
And is the person that runs this certified?
They're certified, yep.
Okay.
So we have a certified BS spreader on staff.
Many.
I want to comment on that. I'm looking at it.
Some might say it's a prerequisite for some of our jobs up here. All right. Any more actual questions? Charlie, you want to talk about what kind of horsepower it has or some other kind of thing?
I already went all through that.
Okay, no, all right.
Red, is it
Yeah,
green?
color
It is the
orange,
best.
green. All right.
It is the best brand on the market.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
And that is a good price. I actually looked it up. I was specking it out online, but yeah,
Good dealer.
very good deal.
Motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the purchase of a new fertilizer spreader, $18,509. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on, this is our add-on. This is a request to approve the installation of a French drain system at Pitchford Park for the amount of $14,870.
So move.
Sport.
Mr. DeCaro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Parks and Recreation Department is requesting permission to install French drains at the west end adjacent to the entrance of the dog park at Pittsford Park. As you may know, we've had some drainage problems there. We received 3 quotes from companies to repair the area. We are recommending we use French Drain Man to do the work for $14,870. I've included the 3 quotes, the confirmation of process memo from the purchasing department, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeCaro. I'll just add on that this was sort of a collaborative effort on behalf of the Parks and Rec Department, myself, Charlie Oliver. We all sort of put our heads together, recognizing that the front of our newly built dog park is a muddy swamp, which is an unfortunate circumstance. It's just the clay ground holds all the water. It just doesn't drain like we had hoped it would. So we want to fix it before we get too far underway with the spring and summer season. So I asked Mr. DeCaro and his team to get together with some contractors to come up with a solution, and this is the one that they chose. All 3 prices were about the same.
Yeah, within $100 of all 3
Yeah.
groups.
So, is there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Kuzmano wants to know, was there an engineering study to make sure that the trench is sufficient to drain?
We didn't engage an engineer, but our own engineers went out, reviewed it with us, and assessed that this proposed solution was appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Did that include anybody who's got experience with sod or grass as part of that?
Minimal.
Okay, thank you.
Fire tonight. When can he start? Fire.
He's ready to start as soon as the frost laws come out,
As
right?
soon as the frost laws come out, we're on that, so we're hoping within the next 2 weeks it'll be done. He said 2 to 3 days to do the whole project.
Good.
We are going to have to temporarily at least close that part of the park.
Yeah.
Mr. DeCaro and his team will direct residents to the side gate in the interim so that the park will still be available to our residents. Anything else? No more questions. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the installation of a French drain system at Pittsford Park, the amount of $14,870. Members, please vote.
Could you do a voice vote, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, board members.
Thanks, Al. Moving on to item number 15. This is a request to adopt a zoning ordinance amendment to the yard lot requirements. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Is that you? Who was that? Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. This ordinance amendment largely has to do with the side yard setback with regards to the service walks that you often see from the driveway wrapping around the house to the rear yard or to the man door on the side of the garage. The standard lot in the township has a minimum requirement of 70 feet. But we've noticed that there are a number of lots that are older and were approved many, many years ago that are more narrow than that. Additionally, we have some lots in the town center area that are a little bit more narrow. So noting that there's a bit of a difference, we did make some minor adjustments to allow for a slightly narrower setback for those lots that are narrower. But we put in some requirements to make sure that drainage is not impacted, as well as there's a required slope, again, to reflect the proper drainage. Staff has reviewed this, and Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Box. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to adopt the zoning ordinance amendment to the yard lot area requirements. Roger, you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Oliver.
Yes.
Treasurer Drollet.
Yes.
Trustee Kuzamano.
Yes.
And Supervisor Viviano.
Yes.
Oh, and,
Forgot.
Trustee Papa, sorry.
yes.
That resolution is adopted. I should say that zoning ordinance amendment is adopted. Moving on to item 16 is a request to adopt the Macomb Town Center 2, 3, 4, and 5 Town Center Development Plan located on the north side of 24 Mile Road, east of Luckman, permanent parcel ID 0809 300 019. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Support.
Mr. Box?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. Town Center South, you've seen Phase 1. It's been there for a number of years along 24 Mile, kind of adjacent to the Cracklewood Golf Course. This is all of their future phases. This was actually previously approved by the board, but they've made some tweaks. Primarily, they've acquired some of the property just to the north of the previous boundary. That was actually a remnant from one of their other projects in the town center. And because of the location of that property and the layout of the roads, it made more sense to be with Town Center South. So they've made that change. That allowed them to move a few buildings around and get a few extra units in there. They've also made some changes to a park location. But overall, staff has reviewed this, and the Town Center Committee met earlier this week and is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Box. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to approve the Macomb Town Center South 2, 3, 4, 5 Town Center Development Plan located north side of 24 Mile Road, east of Luckman Road, permanent parcel ID 0809 300 019. Members, please vote. Oh, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, this will take us to item 17. This is a request to approve the First Amendment conditional rezoning for Big Lakes Lawn Care, located in Romeo Plank, north of 23 Mile Road, permanent parcels 0817-426-004 and 005.
So
Is
move.
there a motion to approve?
So move.
Trustee Kuzma supports the motion.
Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. This conditional rezoning agreement was before the board a few years ago, and it was approved at that time. There were a number of requirements that were not met, and therefore it lapsed, so they're here to make an amendment to that. The agreement itself is very similar to what was approved a couple years ago. The difference being that there are a number of deadlines built into this that would ensure or require kind of step-by-step processes are handled, and should they not be handled, it would again render this null and void, and would put us in a situation where we have, with the next agenda item, where it may need to revert back to the original zoning. That being said, I did send around a memo earlier this week where they have proposed an additional condition, and then again this afternoon in conversation, they've slightly tweaked that condition. They actually just provided the signed version of that this as we've been speaking. So that has to do with the removal of the tarp and the fence that exist out there, and the ability to place a new fence should they so choose prior to any site plan being approved.
Can you read that new condition in its entirety to the record?
Sure. The current tarp and temporary posts will be removed on or before May 1st, 2025. Big Lakes also has the right to remove the existing fence. After removal of the tarp and temporary posts, but before site plan and engineering plan approvals, Big Lakes will have the right to install new fencing in strict conformance with an issued fencing permit, the amended CRA, and the concept plan, and as approved by the Macomb Township Land Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Box. I'm going to ask, will the motion maker include the new condition as part of his motion?
I would move to accept that amendment to the motion.
And does the seconder agree?
The supporter of the motion agrees.
So with that, are there any questions or discussion? Mr. Tomlinson, do I need to read the new condition in its entirety or just by reference?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Since there's no more questions, there's a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Kuzmano, to approve the first amendment to the conditional rezoning to Big Lakes Lawn Care, located at east side of Romeo Plank, north of 23 Mile Road, permanent parcel IDs 0817426004 and 005, including the new condition just read into the record by Mr. Box. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 18 is a request to approve a rezoning from the general commercial, I'm sorry. Skipped that too fast. 18 is now moot, so I'm going to ask for a motion from the board to remove it from the agenda.
Motion to remove?
Support.
Any questions or discussion? Roger, do you want to voice vote this or just?
No, we can do it
Vote it in.
electronic.
Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa, to remove item 18 from the agenda. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Just for
Yeah.
clarification, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Supervisor, just for clarification, it's because of what the action was on 17 that 18 became moot.
That is correct. Item 19 is our last item of the evening. Come on up, Adam. This is a request to adopt an ordinance to amend the Township of Macomb Code of Ordinance, Chapter 6, by adding Article 7, establishing a cost recovery for non-emergency responses. I don't need the rest of that. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Support.
Go ahead, Adam.
Good evening. Attached, you'll find the proposed ordinance intended to curb the misuse of the township's emergency resources so our highly trained personnel can remain available for genuine crisis. Non-emergencies disguised as a true emergency are a strain on the public safety agencies, diverting resources from those in urgent need. By implementing the cost recovery ordinance, the township can hold offenders accountable by imposing fees to cover the expenses incurred by emergency response units. This not only discourages the misuse, but also alleviates the financial burden on taxpayers. Furthermore, it promotes responsibility use of the 911 system, enhancing public safety and maintaining efficiency of emergency services. Establishing such an ordinance demonstrates the township's commitment to protecting the residents and ensuring the proper use of our vital resources.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. I will comment on one part of this is that in this draft ordinance itself is a methodology for establishing what the cost recovery will be. The fire department will get together with the finance, or our township CFO, and we'll provide that, and the board will have to approve the cost recovery amount. So that will be coming back to the board.
Mr. Chair, if I have a few questions, if I may.
You may.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Adam, can you give the board an example of the type of non-emergency calls that are most experienced by your department?
What a lot of this alludes to is we have some assisted living, senior living facilities within the township, and they'll, rather than use their resources available at the facility, they'll call us to do a lift assist instead of using their own personnel within the living facility. It's not at the homes, it's in those senior living facilities as identified in the ordinance.
So if I can just clarify one thing or just add to what Adam just gave us, is this was narrowly drafted really to address for-profit businesses who are using our 911 services, fire department specifically, as an extension of their staff. That's an inappropriate use, tying up our manpower, our trained people, and our equipment for something that they should staff appropriately for. We do not want anyone to ever hesitate from calling 911 if they have an emergency. We do, however, want these facilities to have the proper personnel on staff to do what they're being paid to do.
If I may ask a follow-up, Mr. Chair.
You can now.
Thank you. How many incidences do you think of this nature typically occur in a year?
So we would actually have to go, we could get our records management supervisor to break it down, because I don't want to give you a number just going, oh, let's look at lift assist, because we actually have to look at the address that it's tied to, because this is like, as a supervisor, it's not looking at the resident who calls because they need assistance getting up. It is at the facilities that are using us as an extension of their staff. So if you want, we can have our records management supervisor pull that information, and we can sort it out and get it to the board.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. Just want to know from a treasury perspective, if we have to help with the billing or help with the payments and so forth, are we going to have 200 more times a year? Is it going to be 20 more times a year? Well, I can wait for your...
Okay. And we can get through that and spell it out. This may curb it, knowing that this is going to affect that. It may reduce that volume.
Thank you.
Just a quick
Yep,
question. So to make it clear, our residents, when they call for any kind of minor thing like a lift, would that be considered a charge?
So based off of the way the ordinance is written, we will respond when we're requested. We're never not going to respond, but it would have to be based off of what the ordinance says. It would be the discretion of the response once we find out. Because sometimes we go and it comes in as a lift assist, but there are injuries. So it's no longer a lift assist. It's actually a medical emergency where someone fell because of a medical emergency, even though it's called in a lift assist. Now we're going there to actually provide the 911 services that we can do.
I want to emphasize, don't hesitate to call.
Correct.
Even if it's just somebody who fell, someone's parent or grandparent, aunt, uncle is with them, they fall down, please call us for help. This is, again, really geared for people who only misuse the system, not who just need help.
Thank you.
Or I may just add,
Yeah.
briefly, because I do represent a number of municipalities that deal with this. Someone calling to have the remote control picked up from the floor is not a valid
That's a
lift
misuse.
assist. That's a misuse, and it happens.
We've had residents where someone has had a surgery and for like 2 weeks, we'll go once a week to help them, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And that's not what this is discouraging. It is, as the supervisor alluded to, those type of instances that we're trying to keep our crews ready and available for when those true emergencies come in.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If we do vote this in and we come up with whatever those fees would that be communicated to some of these for-profit facilities in advance
Yeah,
so
I
that they'd
think
be aware?
something that DC and Chief and I discussed at, I think, one of our last few meetings is that once this was passed, we would make sure that all the for-profit agencies that we're aware of that have called us in the past know that this is on the books now.
And then, are we doing any other, do we have any current cost recovery or for emergency or non-emergency services, whether it's maybe outside of the township or something like that, where perhaps we charge another, entity?
Not that I'm aware of.
The only thing that we have is through the Macomb County Fire Chiefs. We have a mutual aid agreement that is with all the fire departments within Macomb County. So we don't charge unless that municipality charges for their services, and then we can recover. But other than that, we don't charge for anything pertaining to this.
Yep.
Generally speaking, we don't charge people to do our core services, and this is really what this is, a core service. Okay, no more questions? We have a,
Mr. Chairman,
Go
I
ahead.
have a question. My reading of the drafting of this ordinance, proposed ordinance, is that it applies only to various residential congregate care and independent living facilities. There's been some discussion which talks about individual residents, and I think it's been made clear that this only applies to these for-profit residential living facilities and the like. Is that correct? In other words,
yes.
a resident isn't going to be getting a bill if they had the fire department come out to give them a hand for the lift assist.
That's correct.
Okay. I would just also note that the Township Board of Trustees is going to have to make a finding that the fee is warranted and in the best interest of the public health, safety, and welfare. Is it your opinion, sir, that this is burdensome to the fire department, these assisted living facilities having using our resources for this purpose?
Has there been situations? Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't want to call out the facility, but there was one specific one that really sparked this conversation. How many times did we go there in 1 week? Do you remember?
Multiple times in 1 week, and
Sometimes it was multiple times a day.
and their comment was it's not our job. So, and we had conversations with them to understand what responsibilities are.
That's what
Mr.
started this.
Chairman, I think that that's sufficient for us to make the finding. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. Motion by trustee Papa, supported by treasurer Gillette, to adopt an ordinance to amend the Township Macomb Code of Ordinance, Chapter 6, by adding Article 7, establishing a cost recovery for non-emergency responses. Mr. Carter, will we call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Papa?
Yes.
Treasurer Drollet?
Yes.
Trustee Kuzimano?
Yes.
Trustee Oliver?
Yes.
Supervisor Viviano?
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Thank you, DC. Moving on, this is our second public comment. This will be for non-agenda items. Anyone who has anything to comment on may do so now at the microphone on the right-hand side of the room. I don't see anyone making a move. So we're going to move on to board comments. Trustee Papa.
Yeah, I'll go back chronologically. First, congratulations to firefighter Anthony Poma for being a full-time firefighter. Good luck to him. Want to thank Candace Miller and the County Public Works Department for their efforts this week, clearing a lot of the fallen trees and other debris from Middle Branch. Saw her and our county commissioner and our supervisor in the news supporting that, so thank you to them. And then last week's shooting at Troy Corwell Beaumont resulted in the apprehension of the suspect at his Macomb Township home. Just wanted to give kudos to the Macomb County Sheriff's Department and all the officers for the quick response there. Glad we have them working to protect our community.
Thank you, Trustee Papa. Trustee Oliver.
Kind of mirror what Trustee Papa said, but also, again, congratulate Anthony Palomo to full-time fire department. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Oliver. Trustee
My voice, so
Guzmano.
I'd be still talking.
No comments tonight.
Okay. Treasurer Gillette.
I just echo the sentiments of my colleagues. The congratulations to Officer Palma, and then that's it.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Yep, same thing. Thank Candace Miller and her team for taking care of the Middle Branch. I want to thank the board for approving that cost share agreement that we did earlier in the late winter. That's what allowed that team to get out there and remove that. And then as Candace said, that was the largest tree that they've removed from a county drain. And yes, the Middle Branch of the Clinton River is a county drain. Congratulations, Firefighter Palma. We're excited to have you as a full-time member of the team. And the other thing that I want to echo is the response time by the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. I was in touch with our lieutenant as that was unfolding, and that they responded so quickly to that by the time most people had even heard that there was a shooting at Troy, that they already had the person in custody. They responded very, very quickly. They mobilized a big team. Congratulations to everybody that was involved, and I thank them for the outstanding service that they provide to the township. So, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
Any questions or discussion? Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Papa to adjourn the meeting. Members, please vote. I need to hit yes. Motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. I waited 9 more minutes.